It's awesome. It's when we started this platform. Yeah, I really, really, really wanted to honor you because it was amazing when you saw the reaction to you moving from beat writer to assistant sports editor now of the Detroit News. I was shocked that you were shocked at the reaction. I was like, you're Rod Beard, man. Like, come on.
But
So
but 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 honestly, when you're a beat writer, you don't really get the full magnitude of anything. You're on the grind. You're paying attention to the players, the team, and everything else that's going on. You don't get a sense of people
you're doing
appreciate
your
what
job.
you're doing. I mean, you kind of get that some people do, but then it's well, you got the haters and you got the people that you got to block and ignore and all of that, and those are the ones that amplify more than anything else. But yeah, I don't pay attention to stuff like that, and that's probably on me. I need to do a better job of that too.
It's awesome though, man. A lot of the people in the room, how they see you, how they speak of you, even Sean Murphy, from Half Court. Shout out to those guys, Troy, Sergey, Jeff, Iafrady. They do great work over there, man. And I know for Sean, the first thing he texted me was just, he's just a great human being. He's just, and he's on my channel, and he was just so great, just so grateful, Brandon. I was just like, that's really him, and it's not an act. So I like to make sure people understand the drum rolls, bro, they have weight. They have weight. This would be like if I was doing a drum roll on a bass drum, on a kick drum. You know what I'm saying? I don't think people understand the magnitude. I like to highlight people, man. So thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's get this thing started though, man. What up, though, people? It is your boy Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid, and you're rocking out with the Woodward Pistons podcast on the Woodward Sports Network. Jeff Iafrady on the Morning Woodward Show, and I hope you guys have already gotten a chance by this time to check out that From Half Court episode over on the From Half Court channel. But let me get the legend drum rolled in here. Hey, yo! Shout out to the legend Detroit News Rod Beard, brother, as always. Welcome, and how you doing, man?
Hey, happy Wednesday to you. I know it's Wednesday because we're doing a an episode. That's my marker that it's the middle of the week. I'm doing good. I'm blessed.
That's awesome, man. That is awesome. And look, I like the Eastern Michigan. I like the shirt today, man.
Yeah. My daughter's going in the fall, so it is. I got to represent for her too.
Hey, that's what's up. That's what's up. See, look, man, you always drop kind of some dope gear on the show, whether it be the hip hop collection shirts,
Oh, here
the
we go.
sports gear. I see even the Wayne State stuff too, man. I'm like, every time I'm down there, at the field house now, especially with the Motor City Cruise, I'm
Yep.
just like, yo, man, Wayne State is nice. This is a nice area. It deserves more attention. It really does.
No, it
But
does. It does. It really does.
but let's get into this, man. Look, I got the buffs today, man. I got the buffs,
Uh
okay?
oh. Uh
You know
oh.
why?
Uh oh.
It's because it is officially Troy Weaver season. And he's had some interesting things to say that kind of it kind of helped to shape my perspective for what his offseason may look like, the belief that he has in his team, what
Hmm.
the summer league may look like, Cade Cunningham and his injury, as well as his thoughts on Cade and Ivy. And so I'm just sitting here now, like a lot of the things that we kind of were kind of kicking around on this show for the better part of the last year and a half, it seems as if we've been the fly on the wall of Troy Weaver's office. Now, look, I'm not just saying, no, listen, I'm not just saying that. Okay, listen. The last three questions I got to ask him in the press conference, right? Look, and it's recorded, man. Each time, the first time, he was like, man, have y'all been in my meetings? The second time, man, you got my office bugged? The third time, man, what? Were you in my war room? Oh, man. Each time. And it's been some of the things that you've kind of helped put my mind in a certain perspective,
Hmm.
and Mike Curtis too. Mike too. His questions are very, very kind of like in line with what Troy has kind of been thinking. And it's been a cool process just to see this thing come to this place where ultimately where I wanted to start was his belief in this team because I think that that's what shapes everything else. His
Hmm.
belief in the players that he has right here, right now. And it- he says he believes in these guys to the point that he doesn't want to sign anyone that will block the development of the young core. He said he
Hmm.
wants to see what Monty can do with these guys. And
Mhm.
that's something that we continue to say, you know what? I think that we might be underrating this core just a little bit just because we haven't really seen them play, and he still has the opportunity to add to them. We see the defensive potential that Asar Thompson and Marcus Sasser can bring to this lineup, just kind of that youthful versatility. And Marcus Sasser, 4-year player, man, like he's coming in with some headiness to him. You know, how how excited should we be about this core? Because to me, it feels like Troy Weaver really believes in Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, and the rest of this young core.
I think people should be excited, and naturally Troy's going to say it because that's the stuff that he picked. That's the team that he picked. But the fact that he hasn't traded away many of his draft picks tells you a little bit something. If he was going to give up somebody, he probably give up on somebody. He probably would have done it already. So I think we talked last week about Killian, and maybe there's some writing on the wall with Killian. But the fact that it's not done yet says something too. If he were going to give up and just say, you know what, we're cutting bait, he would have done that last year. So I think now you just start to look at the pieces in this core, and if he said he's not going to bring in anybody to block them, he believes in their growth. He believes in the ceiling, and understands that they haven't gotten there yet. So for people who want to say Cade is what he is, and he's not going to get much better, and you've been trumpeting that, I mean, since as long as I can remember, he's not 19 or 27-7. That's not who he is. That was him with the injury at the beginning of last year.
Talk about it, bro.
So what does that look
Man.
like with a healthy leg, with better pieces around him? What does that look like? Is it 22, 8 and 10, 10 and 8? I don't know.
Bro, with better players around him and better shooters around him too.
But more experienced and savvy players around him. And it's not a commentary on the roster that he had last year, but it's saying with the growth, and this is more of what Troy is saying, with the growth and the steps forward that each one of these guys is going to take, and that Cade is going to take, and who they bring in free agency, what does this really look like? And that's what we've been saying for months and months and months. Don't look at this roster as a 17-win team. It's 17 wins without Cade, with Wembanyama as the prize for the team that won that number one pick. So it's circumstantial more than anything else. But I think he's saying, hey, I like these guys. Maybe there's something in the summer and the workouts that they've been doing that he likes a little bit more. All of that kind of goes into that comment.
Yep. And it's I liked what he said, or I thought it was interesting what he said about he wants to see what Monty can do with these guys as well. And it was one of the things, like, I like Dwayne Casey. I love Dwayne Casey as a person. I like him as a coach as well. But I did believe that there were some augmentations from an X's and O's standpoint on the offensive side of the ball that could have been made or tweaked. And I think that with kind of the foundational basis that he's laid, I think that Monty's able to come in with these players, especially the kind of quickness, the speed, the athleticism, because quickness and speed are different. Sasser and Thompson have both, man, that they're adding to this roster. With the kind of I mentioned this in a conversation online. They're all like high IQ basketball players, right? Like Sasser and Thompson aren't coming in as shabby guys. These guys are coming in as playmakers. Adding to people who've proven to have high IQ in the NBA in Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, even knowing how to make the right decision, the right reads, the right passes. We've seen kind of the offenses that Monty Williams has run over in Phoenix, and it just absolutely makes me excited because people, they ask, like, what makes you the most excited about Monty being able to coach this team? Just like when I hear, Troy Weaver saying, I want to kind of see what he does with these guys. It is the fact that he went there and he helped Devin Booker over that hump. He helped Devin Booker become a star, but he also understood, like, play through those guys. It wasn't necessarily the sets, but it was about how effectively he utilized their full skill and talent. And honestly, I feel like when Cade Cunningham was playing, Dwayne did lean a lot on Cade Cunningham, and the Pistons did look like a better team, even when the talent wasn't, where it is today. So it's with Monty, I guess the one thing I want to figure out is what exactly is he going to affect on the defensive side of the ball. And I wanted to try and get your take on that, if any. That's kind of been the one place where I will admittedly say I don't really know what he's going to bring. Not that he won't bring anything, but what exactly is his style or his scheme defensively that they're going to play.
Yeah, I don't have any insight into that. I think it's just going to be the energy and the belief that there's something different that's there. And Dwayne Casey is still there. And remember, he was the one that kind of put that defense together in Dallas that helped them to win that championship. So I think that's
Yeah.
that's something that's still there.
Still
I
like
don't
the
think you
foundation.
Yeah, I don't think you ignore what Dwayne brings to the table. I think it just augments what is there with Monty. And again, I think his ability to speak to and to understand the young players on the roster is what's going to be key. And you want to see how quickly that takes hold. And maybe even as soon as
Mm.
in the summer league is what's the stamp, what's the imprint, what's the kind of style that these guys are playing. And Monty's not coaching the summer league team, but what does that look like when those guys get out on the floor? And I'm interested to see who is coaching the summer league team,
Yep.
and again, what kind of stuff they have, what type of mentality they bring. Are they swarming the ball? Are they getting out in transition? Are they doing something a little bit different that we didn't see with Dwayne? Those are kind of the things that I'm looking for almost immediately.
And it's almost because now, because I want to be fair to Dwayne as well, they've added a few more pieces. Sasser and Thompson are some good pieces to add. Some
Yep.
guys that are gonna have some fresh legs, abundance of energy. And oh, by the way, they are fast and they are athletic. You can do a few more things with your defense. You know, if Casey had those guys, he could do a few more things with his defense than he probably could prior, especially with the growth of the guys that, like you said. I'm kind of glad that you highlighted that,
Mhm.
the growth, the internal growth, which is something that they've been keen on saying that they want to depend on, and we want them to want to depend on as well. Dallas Mavericks are able to depend on the fact of Luka's are homegrown. Denver's able to depend on homegrown talent. I'm ready to kind of look at our guys as that. They either have to sink or swim. It's, and I do believe that they're going to swim. I heard Jaden Ivey the other day talking, man. This losing stuff is still on his head. I'm like, bro, you just had a baby, and he's still like, man, yo, that last year was just, that's what I like to hear from these guys. To know that
Yep.
Cade Cunningham is working, man. Shout out to all those memes that went out there, man, with Cade Cunningham. Did you see all those memes of Cade? The AI generated Cade looking like a caveman. I was like,
I
oh
I
my
I
goodness,
I,
bro.
I try to. I think Sean showed me one of those, and it's sort of, come on, Pistons Twitter. This is how you know you're in the midst of the summer and there are no games going on because people got time. They
They
got
got
time
time,
to
man.
just create stuff.
But with Summer League in the draft, man, he had some interesting things to say. We were wondering who's all going to play. People wondering, like, is Ivy and Duren going to play, since those guys have proven to be NBA guys? And I do believe that was Mike Curtis who asked that.
Mhm.
And when he asked it, I was just like, oh, I didn't even think about it. At first, I thought, yeah, it's going to happen. Then I thought, no, who? Then I thought, well, who cares? And I thought, well, let me hear what Troy thinks. And Troy stated this, starting with the Jazz, when he worked with them, and then OKC, we always had our second and third year guys playing. That's what I believe in. They haven't played that many games yet. And so, to your point, it seems like they're going to try and put these guys in a situation or in a foundation, because they run this kind of program, to kind of see what they have, especially if their guys are out there. I know Cade obviously isn't playing out there in Summer League, but he did say, we're going to get to some injury stuff later, a time that he does believe he will be ready. But with the Summer League and with the draft as well, he he kept making this one theme, and this is what I think the theme of everything he's doing right now is. He said, if we're going to restore to the levels of greatness from before, these guys are tailor made. And he was talking about Asar Thompson and Marcus Sasser as it relates to the draft. I believe it was Amari Sankofa who asked him a question about, and it was kind of piggybacking on a defensive question that I was asking him as well.
Mhm.
Was your draft strategy about defense effectively? And he said yes. And Omari Sankofa kind of took it a step further about how do these guys specifically fit and whatnot. And he was like, when we looked at the draft, effectively, these were the two guys that we saw that could fit into being the defensive players we believe that they can be. He said that he sees Asar Thompson as a guy who can defend the best player on the court. That's huge praise, man. That's
Mm-hmm.
This is something that when we sat here a summer ago and we said, "Oh, you know what? Hey, we did finally what the fans wanted. We swapped out Jeremy Grant. We got Bojan." Even when Jeremy Grant was first gone, and then the trade went, you told us wait for the smoke to clear, and we were all excited about what happened before we had
Mm-hmm.
Bojan. The first thing you said is, "Who's guarding the Giannis's? Who's just
Mm-hmm.
guarding the journeyman 6 man, 6'9" guy? Who's guarding Kuzma?" These these were the first things that you brought up, man.
Mm-hmm.
And we were just like, and we literally titled an episode, man, "Are we underestimating the loss of Jeremy Grant?"
Mm-hmm.
From everything that I'm hearing here, it sounds like he believes that Asar Thompson can kind of have this type of impact on defense, and that they're looking to see kind of right away, maybe as soon as Summer League, to see who's going to be out there, like you said, scrapping, who's going to be out there getting on the floor, who's going to be out there getting after it. Because ultimately in NBA, we've seen that. We've seen
Yep.
that be the difference in between a team that's just kind of running through the sets, running through the motions. Oops, we might not have the athleticism or the speed to close the gap. I feel like they have a hungry squad now, especially with adding these two rookies, getting Cade back and whatnot. But I did want your thoughts at all on Asar Thompson and Marcus Sasser, what you think that these guys are going to bring both ways. I think that they're going to contribute two ways, maybe not as soon as many think, but I look forward to what they're going to bring.
Yeah, I think it's just Troy looked at the draft and said, "Hey, if we're not in the top three, then we really just have to um, get the best that we can to augment the rest of the roster. And if we need perimeter defenders, then we can get it. And we know that Dwayne has said and Troy said in the past, it's not about who starts the game; it's who finishes the game. And if you're finishing the game with Asar, it means that you need a defender on the floor who's going to be impactful and maybe get a turnover, maybe get something going on the other way, a deflection, something like that. And you value that. Um, he's not the guy who's taking the corner three with 3 seconds left to try to win you a game. I think you're going to see more than that. I think he'll just be a guy who's there and who I compare him to when Cleveland took Isaac Okoro, and they said, you know what? It's not a pick to add to our offense. This is a pick to add to our culture and the overall talent level of our roster, and just somebody who's going to be a defensive guy. Is Isaac Okoro out there playing big minutes in crunch time and making shots? No, that's not his role. He does have a role of being a defensive guy and somebody who can stop those. He's not guarding Giannis, but somebody who's guarding a Paul George or something like that, who has that size and that ability to do something like that.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that I like about Marcus Sasser, because I think that you were on point there with Asar Thompson, and I love the fact that Troy Weaver brought up Andre Iguodala, not just
Mm-hmm.
the Iggy that we remember with the Warriors, but the one that could, he said, put up the 20 points a night, also go out there and put up good defense, also go out there and handle and play make, and that those 20 points weren't being forced at all. But
Mm-hmm.
what I love about Marcus Sasser, man, is we sat here and we talked about and we gushed over the fact that we have Isaiah Stewart, who is the guy on the squad that has that dog in him. But realistically, when we're talking about restoring the Detroit Pistons back to some of these other squads, bro, we had a roster full of guys with that dog in them. You know what I mean? And I
Mm-hmm.
feel like Marcus Sasser is another one of those guys cut with that ingredient. Not that the other guys don't have that always go no days off mentality, but that extra gear, that extra kick that Stewart has. Just me personally, when I look at Marcus Sasser, when I look at his tapes, when I understand he's coming in with the 4 years under his belt and whatnot, and the style that he plays, I feel like he has that, man. I really do, and I'm hoping he works out. I saw somebody say, "Is this just the second coming of Saban Lee?" And I'm like, "Don't do that. Don't do that. This guy can shoot tremendously better." I like
Mm-hmm.
Saban Lee, but what Marcus Sasser has been able to do, I think he's going to be one of those 3-and-D combo guards, and he put himself aptly there. Hey, listen, I'm looking to come in and help. I can be the off guard, and I think that bodes well for a guy like Killian Hayes, who when Sasser was first drafted, Pistons Twitter lit up with, "Oh, bye Killian." Since they've all kind of been like, you know what? You imagine if those two guys, if Killian's head was right and those guys were playing defense in the backcourt off the bench, shades of, like I said, I wonder if these guys would ever be able to reach any aspect of Lindsey and Mike James if we're talking about restoration. But I liked, some of these last few quotes here. I'll start with the Cade news, Cade injury, and then Cade and Ivy. He said that Cade Cunningham on his injury, he should be going soon. He's done a tremendous job so far in his rehab, but in the next couple of weeks, he actually should be ramping up. And that ramping up, he said, is going to be geared towards being ready for training camp, which Troy Weaver said he will be ready for training camp. And that should be good news to everybody. We're not hearing of pain. We're not hearing that there's any setbacks. We're not hearing that, there's risks, he's at risk right now of injuring things. He needs to, sit down and let it rest and things of that nature. He's just kind of living life and kind of going through it and hitting all of the different markers. And that's what I like to hear. We had Cannon and Ashton, Cannon Cunningham, Ashton, the trainer, and rank management on the channel maybe about a month or two ago. And they told us the same thing. Hey, look, no, Cade he's looking good. And he's taking shots. He's getting things worked out and getting things figured out as it relates to that 3-point shot. I am actually pretty excited about what Cade Cunningham is going to do this season if all the reports continue to go as scheduled. And then on Cade and Ivy, Troy Weaver, man, he's a very measured individual. Someone asked him, so this is your engine, you think that these are going to be the guys that they're going to get it done. And he said they have all the talent that you want. But the mentality to make the guy beside you better, to use their talents to make the rest of the team better is what is great. He said that they have that desire. They have that. That's the play style. But he said, let's see here. He said to use your talents to make the rest of the team better is what great backcourts are judged on. He said they have the tremendous potential. But that's how you judge that. And he said that you also have to get the wins. It almost, as he was kind of speaking, it wasn't as if he was saying it's their fault that we haven't won yet. But that definitely is going to be, I believe, their fault that we do win, and that's going to be how they are judged moving forward here. And it was an interesting take on it because I think a lot of us just push the button and just say, like me, I'm saying, yes, those are the guys. And he said, hold on, no. It's a challenge out there. It's a gauntlet out there. These guys have to go out there and make sure that they're doing everything in their power to make their teammates better. When you look at these great Pistons backcourts, even like I said, the 2004 team, I thought that they had a great starting backcourt, and then even really good starting, not starting, but bench backcourt in Mike James and Lindsey, and then Chauncey and Richard Hamilton. And both of those guys could pass, man. And not just pass to pass, but I'm talking about Richard Hamilton because of the type of gravity that he knows he's going to draw. Some of those passes he threw sometimes almost seemed like he knew he was going to throw him before he even did. Like the player that was catching it. Sometimes Ben Wallace catching that ball like down there in the paint, and I got an open layup and open dunk. That's what made those teams work. You said something about the defense being able to just go. You have these natural talents. Let's get you out there in space and put that to use. Man, how many times did we see the 04 Pistons and then people who saw the bad boy Pistons on offense because of the type of IQ, the type of talent, and the desire to make your teammates better, them guys could just go. And that's kind of what I envisioned. I'm just like, man, I feel like Cade and Ivy are those guys. We saw Ivy with the ball in his hands. I liked him, man, when the pressure was kind of on him. He's one of those guys who, if the ball comes off the rim to him, or if the center just so happens to see him, give him the ball and let him go. If Cade's on the other side, give him the ball, let him go. Man, how you feeling about this, man? Cade and Ivy, this future backcourt, this future star backcourt. How are you feeling about that?
Yeah, I think it's just going to be we saw flashes of it, and we talked about the development that Ivy made and being able to work with the ball in his hands a little bit more and to initiate offense. And if that's the development that he made and that meshes well with Cade, then yeah, you've got scary times coming with those two being able to work that out and handle the ball. And just like when we saw the first play last year of Summer League was Ivy to Duren, can you get that working? Can you get Cade doing that same sort of thing? Because we haven't seen Cade and Duren at all. At all. I don't even know.
We talk about the pick and roll game, and we haven't seen Cade and Duren at all.
I don't know if they played a game together last year. Maybe they did.
Not of any significance. The first 12 games, Duren was not Duren.
Right, but not of great time together on the court at the same time because Cade was starting and Duren was coming in with that second unit.
Yep.
So that's something I'm interested to see is how the two of those work with Duren, and that's your kind of backbone, your young backbone, and now you're throwing in Boyan, presumably, and now you're throwing in Stewart with the improvements that he's made. I'm interested to see just how they come out of the gate with the energy that all five of those guys are playing together. This is a different starting lineup than the beginning of last year.
That
right.
energy.
But even Cade and Boyan didn't have a good chemistry. They got 11 games of playing together. That's not anything that you can tell of what that is. And so I think the draft was about the fringes and kind of sturdying up the fringes defensively and getting you some different pieces there. And maybe some Killian protection if they decide, hey, we're going to cut bait. Now you've got Sasser as another option there. But you just want to have athletes. You just want to have people. You just want to have when that second unit comes in that they don't implode and just give away a lead. But now if you got a defensive presence there with Killian and Asar, then, hey, I mean, maybe we're talking about something. So
yeah,
I think the draft was geared toward that. I think I'm excited to see what the starting lineup looks like with some chemistry and having played together and knowing they're the starting lineup because we didn't know that. We don't know that going forward. But now if your second unit, if you've got to figure out Bagley and Wiseman, how that's going to go too. I mean, there's a lot still to figure out. We got Summer League that'll give us a little bit of a teaser with that. But free agency, I think, is the real big thing that's going to tell us the direction of what this next season is going to look like.
Yeah, Rod, you got me more excited than I already was, man. Like, because you're right, there are so many storylines still left. There is so much talent here. There's so much that we just haven't even seen. Still so much to uncover. Yeah. It's like that's what I'm saying. When Troy was sitting there talking, you could tell he's a measured and a metered person as well. Like I had someone tell me, "Oh man, you guys are really stepping." I'm like, no. These are the expectations I believe they should hit. And if not, yeah, we will criticize appropriately. But I am excited to see where this team goes. And it seems like the Pistons world is. They've been just trending. They've been a very popular and talked about team. A lot of the content is going crazy. Shout out to Houston's Twitter. I'm going to talk to you about it later, but we're going to have a pretty special guest. I'm going to talk to you to see if we have some time, but somebody from Houston's world, man, Houston Rockets world, and the media down there wants to get together with us and talk about these Thompson twins and officially kind of put an end to this Houston Rockets and Detroit Pistons fans war, man. Yeah, they want us to settle this thing, going back to Jalen Green and Cade Cunningham. So
yeah, well, I don't even think it's Jalen and Cade. I think it's just Jalen. Cade doesn't care. Cade knows what's up. And if you ask Cade, Cade would say Jalen knows what's up too. So that's the funny part about it.
Yeah. I can't wait. It's gonna be so fun too. So we're gonna make sure that we got Mr. Iafredi for that one as well. I'll make sure everybody knows the times. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. But Rod, I appreciate you, brother. I know you have to run. I got a few things I'm gonna cover with the people. A few funny things, man. I read some comments. So I was like, you know what? I'll let Ryan go for this part.
Yeah, don't read the comments. Don't ever read the comments.
But any last words before I get your drum rolled out, bro?
No. I'm just excited about Summer League next week, and I'm going to go down for a couple of days and take a look, see what's popping, see what the Monty system looks like. But it's always fun just to get together with the other writers around the league and be able to break bread and talk and to get some intel if you can grab some of that too.
That's what's up. That's what's up, man. And like I said, it's always awesome to know you're out there on the scene and still just kind of not just putting in the work, but everywhere you go, knowing that you're leaving that stamp of being a great human being, man. So let me get your drum rolled out of here appropriately. It's a Wednesday. It almost feels like I've been recharged and revitalized. So let's go, man. Hey, yo! Shout out to the legend Detroit News, Rod Beard. Brother, enjoy the rest of your day, man. Thank you.
You do the same, bro. Appreciate it. All right. Yep.
Let me see here. People. Well, look, we got a few more things to cover before I let you all go. And I appreciate you guys for sticking thus far. But I want to hear what you guys think about free agency. Hearing some of these quotes that we heard from Troy Weaver, and I'm going to continue to try and bring this to you. These are some of the quotes that we get kind of off the session after the press conference. The media has opportunities sometimes to meet, sometimes on the record, sometimes off the record. Some of the on the record stuff that kind of gives us insight, I will let you know so we can sift through a lot of the different noise and news and fake news or this or that or social media posts that we may see online that's saying, oh, well, Pistons might be interested in this guy or that guy. Well, this is what Troy said. So whether it's smoke screens or not, at least you know what's coming directly from the horse's mouth. So that's why I wanted to be able to do that. And Rod and I, we're going to be doing that a lot more as we get these quotes coming directly from Troy Weaver, Monty, the players, and whatnot. But listen, guys, I got a couple things I wanted to cover over social media, and this was crazy. And that's why I wanted to talk about Troy Weaver today and Troy Weaver season. I saw this post, man. Shout out to Brendan on Twitter at Brendan999T. I wanted to make sure I gave him this because he's the one that actually retweeted this Detroit Pistons post from January 2nd, 2020, 10:23 p.m. It says the rookie Sekou Doumbouya gets to start tonight, our starting five. And I'm just going to put this up to the screen as I read these names so y'all can read and see what I'm seeing too, man. Do y'all see? Do y'all see the picture? Shout out to your boy Sekou. Do you see that? All right, let me read these names, y'all. Tim Frazier, Svi Mikhailov, Sekou Doumbouya, Tony Snell, and Andre Drummond, y'all. Listen, that's what Troy Weaver had to start with. Do y'all understand this was less than 4 years ago? Do y'all realize that lineup was less than 4 years ago? What Troy Weaver's been able to do in terms of the young talent alone, when you look here in the young talent here is Svi Mikhailov, Sekou Doumbouya, and Andre Drummond versus what we have today of like Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, Asar Thompson, Marcus Sasser. Like, come on, Isaiah Stewart, Isaiah Livers. What are we doing, people? Like, I feel like I might be even forgetting somebody. James Wiseman, even Marvin Bagley, man, these people have value. He's turned this team into at least something that has a semblance of an NBA roster. And another thing that he talked about was the veterans and how he wants them to be able to fit with this team, not to be able to take away from them, but to be able to boost these guys. He's not trying to just add somebody to add someone to the team for the sake of what I call artificial or inflated winning. You can add a 1 or 2 year guy, they do their thing, but they're not really meshing with the team and they haven't done anything to make the team better. When those guys leave or those guys get plucked or whatever, you're left in a worse situation than before because you're depending on growth. That's one of their biggest mantras is internal growth. So if you're going to buoy for 2 years, you have to be somebody who can be here and actually make this team better. And that's what I've appreciated about guys like Rodney McGruder and Corey Joseph. They've come in and they've just decided, hey, listen, yeah, this is about how these guys look. It's not necessarily about what I get. It's about how I can be here for them. The difficult part is how do you get a talented player? Because now the Pistons are in a position where they can, the roster spots are more at a premium, especially with the new CBA. You have to have a talented roster. You're gonna have to have guys in your squad that you know can play, but they might not be in the regular rotation anymore just because of how you have to stack things. And I feel like Isaiah Livers might find himself in that position. If the Pistons sign or trade for another 3 or 4, that's going to kind of push him down the line when you start to think about all the wings, threes, fours they already have. When you talk about the fact that guys like Bagley, Wiseman, and Duren are kind of crowding this 5-4-ish area and Isaiah Stewart, and then you got other guys on the roster like Bojan Bogdanovic, Alec Burks, who can play that wing sometimes. The guys that have to actually get playing time out of all the guards, they're going to be playing some 3 guard and small ball lineups. I'm hoping Isaiah Livers, if they sign another person, finds himself in this lineup somewhere because he's very versatile and I like what he brings to the table. But if not, then that means that Troy Weaver has made some significant upgrades to this team, which they need. We as Detroit Pistons fans have gone a long time with kind of overvaluating our players, overvaluing our players, not overvaluating, but overvaluing our players. And I think it's because we love hard. That's a Detroit trait, man. We love hard. We love on ours. We want to support ours. And so I'm not mad at that at all. But we have loved hard on guys, that didn't necessarily pan out or meet the metric, whether that was on the actual player or the organization or combination of the two, like Stanley Johnson or what people feel about Andre Drummond to a degree, Brandon Knight. And we can go down the list, Greg Monroe, of people that we've drafted over the years that just haven't met the mark, man. So what I'm seeing what Troy Weaver's done since this, I had to bring that up, man. It's like from Svi to Ivy. Come on, man. From Frazier to Cade, bro. Like this from Drummond to Duren. I'm appreciative that we have a GM like this, but I'm like Troy now. Let's see these wins, man. Let's see these wins. And that's what I want to do. Another thing I wanted to address, and I touched on a little bit with Rod. Um, the expectations for the Detroit Pistons. I was told you overrate so many of our players, past and current. This is from at Cave Bat. Based on just raw stats or projections. I like you, man, but you're digging your own grave with your predictions. He says, where is it? If the Pistons win just 25 games, you better come out and say, yeah, I was so wrong with this team and Troy should be on the hot seat. No, there are expectations. They set the expectations, we set the expectations, and we, regardless of what they say, we're going to hold them accountable to what they're supposed to do. When you're building something, a house, right? It takes time. And before that time, right? You're not going to keep coming and saying, wow, this is a shabby house. Doesn't even have a roof on it. Why? Where are the windows at? You don't do that when you aren't at the point where you've had the window people come out and the roofers come out. You're at the point where you've just built the foundation. You might have just put up some walls, bro. Like that's where you're at right now. And based on that, when you're talking about putting together a team and a type of tear down that the Detroit Pistons did, yeah, we're going to do some aspect of looking at these guys and not just looking at stats, but looking at these guys play, looking at what other people around the league are saying about them. Monty Williams, before he became a Detroit Pistons head coach, was already saying good things about this squad. He had already called Troy Weaver. He had already called people and let them know, yo, this Cade Cunningham guy, you got a good one. You got one. Kevin Durant, Chris Paul, DeMar DeRozan, I can go on and on and on. LeBron James, yo, the list of people who have talked about who Cade Cunningham is. These guys have to now put in the work to do the winning, like Troy said. And if they don't, starting in this season, if they're not showing competitive, like reset it. If the injuries weren't there and his team won 17 games, this is going to be a completely different tune. But the tune that's being sung right now is we need to see these guys out on the court. We need to see who they're going to be when they play. And if it's not up to par, there's no way me, as much as I love basketball, is going to get on this podcast at all and tell you guys, oh, no, it's okay. It's okay. It's okay. No, this is what we want to see. No, just keep believing, keep believing. Listen, if there's a path forward, I'll tell you, this is unacceptable for them to have 20 wins. This is unacceptable. If people are not panning out, this is unacceptable. But right now, I'm sorry, man. Jaden Ivey's come in and demonstrably look better than, like, other than Cade, any other guard we've drafted in how long? And Cade Cunningham looked better than any other player we've drafted in how long? These guys have an opportunity right now. It's like up until Cade, Ivey, and Duren, Andre Drummond was our best drafted player. In how long? And now we got some players here who have an opportunity to come in and supplant that easily. Easily. This is not about overrating players. This is about understanding what they are, what they should be. If you're getting a number one pick, then you're picking twice in the lottery the year after that. And the year before that, you have your foundational draft of Killian, Sadiq, and Stewart, which is going to help to facilitate to put more talent around these guys. That I'm sorry, at some point in time, yeah, you want to see these guys win. And the expectation should be that these are the guys you're going to depend on. Should we not expect our number one pick in Cade Cunningham to be somebody that can go out there and have the same type of impact as a young Luka Doncic did? Are we not going to sit here and expect our Jalen Duren to go out there? They're sitting here saying that he's the new age Sean Kemp. They said that. They said that they had him in their top 5 on the board. And if there was a redraft, he would have won top 5. So it's about the expectations that you're supposed to set and have. And if these guys don't have that expectation, then quite frankly, they're not Detroit guys. But that's not what I've seen from them. They are Detroit guys. Cade didn't just get injured. He shut it down so he could be ready. They have a plan. And so far, they're executing that plan. Now, if this was at the window stage or the roof building stage, and instead they are doing some archaic things, and we are going to sit here and be like, what's going on, bro? What are we doing? This isn't working out. If the roof he's putting up is caving in, then we talk about it. But until that point, we have to look at what's been done and we have to judge it appropriately. The injuries matter. And if they wind up proving to be an injury plagued team, then we can put that on Troy Weaver and his assessment. If they wound up just being a situation where the injuries just so happen to be a season and that's it, and this team for the next 5 to 6 years proves that they're in ascent, then what are we sitting here talking about? But until then, we got to see them on the floor, which is what Troy Weaver said. I want to see these guys, which means he believes in them. I don't want a GM who doesn't believe in his guys that he's picked, and I don't want a GM who doesn't properly augment. See, the one thing that the difference that I've noticed between Troy Weaver and Joe Dumars is that post championship Joe Dumars is that when Joe Dumars was trying to build the team through drafts, and trying to build it through augmenting around that, he just couldn't find the right talent to put around some of these players. I don't think that Greg Monroe, Brandon Knight, and Rodney Stuckey were bad draft picks. There were better draft picks on the board, but I don't think that these guys were bad draft picks. They came in with some good pedigree, they came in with some talent and some skill, but they didn't have the right mix of veterans around them. We had the whole mutiny years. We had the whole buffoonery years. We had people that were not respecting the legacy and in the honor that the Detroit Pistons had laid before them. Those things mattered. And when you kind of look at all of that from the 2004 Pistons to what they're trying to do right now, it does kind of make you want Troy Weaver's aspect of this thing to work because he's bringing that honor back. We're not sitting here talking about the buffoonery years. Go back and research that. When Tayshaun Prince was like buffoonery, bro. They tried to bring Tayshaun in to be that reasoning voice, and he was just like, "Get me back out of here, bro." It just wasn't working. It wasn't working. So look, Mr. K Bat, look, I know we have our interactions, but I do want to be fair. I do want to be fair. I do want to be fair. He is a guy who say, "Hey, look, man, he likes me," but I guess I'm digging my own grave. So, hey, listen, I appreciate you guys being here. I really do. I want you all to definitely hit a like and subscribe if you can. Before I let you go, though, I wanted to be able to talk about some free agents with you. Some free agents. Look, I know a lot of people are big on Cam Johnson. Me personally, you guys already understand my love for Jeremy Grant. I believe that he is the best two-way option you can sign right now. And I don't believe that he blocks Asar Thompson at all, just like Cam Johnson wouldn't. I like Cam. It's just for the money. And is he going to bring the two-way ability that Jeremy Grant can? Is that what we want to invest? Knowing that we're going to have to pay more than his value, not just the Detroit tax, but more than his value as we're heading into this new CBA and these double aprons and such. Which player would you want to be pressed up against the apron, pressed up against these kind of the tax thresholds with? A Cam Johnson who you have to pay 5 to 7 million more than his own team was going to pay him. The Nets are going to pay him 20 million. The Pistons are going to have to pay him 25 to like 27 million a year. Or a Jeremy Grant who may command 30 million, but you know exactly what you're getting. He's the better player, but he's 2 years older right now. I look, and that's where I'm starting to get like with Cam Johnson. I believe that he's a player that, in terms of fit, and this is kind of that best player available versus best fit available. He's a guy who, in terms of you look at his catch and shoot numbers, you look at his field goal percentage, his true shooting, his 3-point percentage, you start to recognize he's a guy who can play off of Cade Cunningham and Ivy. We don't have to see it work. We know that he's a guy who can come in and actually have that work from an offensive standpoint. Defensively, he's shown some things to me that say he's not going to be a weakness, but I don't know how much in terms of like that energy that Rod's talking about that can make him transcend into maybe not an elite defender, but one in which he's a responsible defender. We have to see. With Jeremy Grant, though, obviously we know he's one that's ascended to become known as an elite defender. And that's where I get a little bit of pause for concern. But, you know, Jeremy Grant has made some strides with the three-point shot. And I guess if the Pistons didn't draft Asar Thompson, if they drafted somebody else or they traded down, they got one of these others that I would think they're not necessarily high potential picks, but they're rotation guys that can easily come off the bench. You're not looking at them starting long term. You're not looking at them having the ball in their hands to create really like that. Then yeah, I would have been all in on Jeremy Grant. But now it's just like, you know what? When you're playing off of the creative ability, and I guess I'm kind of talking myself into, and I had this conversation before, but I wanted to be able to have it with you guys too. When you kind of have the creative ability of guys like Cade Cunningham, Jaden Ivey, Jalen Duren, even Asar Thompson, Killian Hayes, a guy like Cam Johnson, he winds up being one of the guys that benefits him the most. It's from a mindset standpoint. Though Jeremy Grant knows how to play, this is kind of like the basketball part of it. Jeremy Grant's mindset is always going to still be from an offensive standpoint, an ISO guy or kind of mid post, shallow post guy, or you catch at the top of the key and still ISO. You got to be wide open. You hit the three, or you're gonna get it. Make your pump fake, your move, your 1, 2, 3 dribbles, either to the rim or shoot it. That's the type of guy he is, and sometimes that can bring his field goal and his effective field goal percentage down, his 2 point percentage way down because it's not clean looks with a guy, and that's his mindset though. It's not like his mindset is all right. As Cade Cunningham is driving to the rim, know where to relocate, know how to hedge as that corner 3 point shooter from the top diagonal part of that corner, top diagonal 3 point shot, how to hedge all the way down to the corner as Cade Cunningham is driving. The mindset that Cam Johnson's having when I look at his film is one that shows he understands how to be a Robin. He understands how to be a fourth option. He understands how to be a guy that's just, there. And I feel like a guy like Robert Ory was like that for a long time. And when I look at Cam Johnson, that's kind of the vibe that I get, like a new age kind of Robert Ory, who if you need him to be that guy who can go out there and get you 30, he's not that guy that's like, yeah, go get me 30. But he can find himself just by being in the right positions and the team being able to continue to go to him. Like if K Cunningham is super double teamed on a night and Ivy might be in a little bit of foul trouble, I can see Cam Johnson being a guy that then puts up 4 or 5 threes in a game easily, getting the looks. You got Bojan who's going to attract a lot of attention, and you got high IQ guys that can go out there and get it done. So if I was going to endorse in terms of how things have lined up 2 weeks ago without Asar, Jeremy Grant, Jeremy Grant, Jeremy Grant. Now that we have Asar, who they're stating can listen, he has the tools that can guard the best player. Even if it's not night one, he needs to learn the nuances, is what Troy said. This is our guy. Then that solves kind of this one who's going to do this. And you got Isaiah Livers as a backup. Then, yeah, I want to see Cam Johnson kind of be the guy that the Pistons go out there and pursue. The basketball fit says that that's going to be it. That's the one that you want. And if he adds that type of value to your team, then you don't care if it's an overpay because you're riding off the fact that he's going to make your young stars better and your young stars are going to make him better. He's going to get a lot more opportunity if Jay and Ivy and Cade Cunningham, especially Cade Cunningham with the gravity he gets, continue to get the attention that they do. Jay and Ivy's going to get more attention. There's no way that you're going to be able to just stand in front of him. And he's looking to get better by next season. But there were some other low cost options, man. Shout out to Anthony Colombo, Pistons Talk. He put out a graphic that I thought was interesting. He says some cheaper free agent targets the Detroit Pistons could sign. Kelly Oubre Jr. And I thought that was a good one. I don't necessarily know what he's going to be looking at to get, but Torrey Craig is another good one. I know that a lot of people, I've seen this one, man. Josh Richardson, TJ Warren. It's a lot. It's a lot out here, and I wanted to be able to get you guys' take on it because some players, personally, for me, that's kind of caught my eyes that won't necessarily break the bank. Guys like PJ Washington. I know some people out there like Grant Williams. I'm not a Grant Williams guy. Y'all gonna have to anybody out there that's a Grant Williams guy. You gonna have to sell me on why. I'm just not a Grant Williams guy, but PJ Washington, who is what like 24 years old, I like that. Shout out to Pistons blog, G-Man at Pistons blog. His mind is kind of similar to where my thinking is. I'm looking at if we're gonna go low cost, some guys like PJ Washington who might go, he says 4 years, $64 million, 15 mil a year. I'm kind of for something like that if the Pistons aren't trying to break the bank, if they're trying to just aptly build around and put multiple of these NBA guys. Like if they don't believe that they have the internal growth necessary off the bench, a guy like Rui Hashimari, I wouldn't mind him. I see he has Jalen McDaniels. And this one has been a popular one that's been coming up lately. And I don't know what the numbers necessarily would be for a guy like this, but Harrison Barnes. I'm not against the idea of Harrison Barnes, but I feel like Harrison Barnes is the type of guy that comes in here and absolutely blocks Asar Thompson. I just don't know kind of what the role of the fit will be. And for the type of I don't know. I guess if we're saying that he's gonna come in here and be ready night one, and that he understands when Asar is ready, that this is the natural transition of things, I can see it on a low year, low cost thing, a low year, high cost thing. But that's the one that I've been seeing his name pop up, and I was like, yo, I gotta kind of drop this in the pod, see what people are thinking about Harrison Barnes, because I'm not really feeling it. But how would you guys feel if the Pistons were able to come away with, say, Rui Hashimari and PJ Washington? That was something that was kind of interesting to me. I know that there are some ways still for the Detroit Pistons to come away with like a couple of those players plus a Cam Johnson, depending on how Troy Weaver decides to utilize his assets. Now, with the Pistons draft capital, these are kind of some of the last things I want to leave you all with. With his draft capital kind of tied up the way that it is, it would kind of be like benefit him, behoove him to try and shore that part of it up. I know with the CBA, second round picks are going to become very, very, very important. And so I want to see him be able to go and take guys like Marvin Bagley maybe and flip him for a couple of second round picks or a late first round pick. I don't see where Marvin Bagley is netting you a lottery. But I can see him letting you maybe a couple seconds or a late first round, depending on how he's playing, to a squad that is definitely competing, looking to get some depth off the bench, looking to get someone who can add a little bit of wiggle and versatility to the pick and roll game. That is Marvin Bagley. He came here and he instantly ignited things when he's playing. And if it's with a contending team, they're not going to have to depend on him the same way that the Pistons would. And so that's where his value kind of sets. I would like to see what they do with Bojan Bogdanovic. He's another guy who, as the Pistons are looking to make improvements, Troy Weaver keeps talking defense, 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 defense. Bojan Bogdanovic is going to have to be able to aptly guard his position and not be a guy where when he's on the court, you're having to take your defense and shade it all towards Bojan's side, leaving open the 3-point shooter in the backside corner. That you can't keep doing that. The Pistons will get crushed, especially with a young team who's still learning. What Troy Weaver says is the nuances of defense. That's not good basketball sense, honestly. I can understand if we can find a way to kind of, like I say, get those spurts, those Bojan spurts. First quarter, third quarter, heavy Bojan, maybe 8 minutes straight of Bojan in those two different quarters, and then bring him back later in spot duty where you can kind of hide him, bring him around, like play him against some of the bench guys of the opposing team and things, just from a basketball standpoint. But I would like to see what they do with him. Contract is coming up soon. See what you can get to try and bolster your draft depth and draft capital. But I like the fact, that right now Troy's taking his time. Why? Because you don't know what you have. I know that if the right deal presents itself, you will see Troy go out there and make that deal. But right now, you don't know if you have to trade Bagley in Bojan or anybody that you consider to be some of your movable pieces. You don't know if you have to trade them for draft picks or for players. You don't know yet because you don't know what your talent is, what your roster is looking like when they play together. Like, I'm still ready. Like, Rod talked about we haven't seen Cade and Duren really play. We haven't seen Cade, Duren, Ivy, Stu and Duren play yet. Like what? Cade, Duren, Ivy, Stu, and Bojan. We haven't seen them play yet. We haven't seen that roster play yet. That's a balanced roster, y'all. That's a seriously balanced roster. So it's like, yeah, look, a lineup at least that they would need some depth, and that's where I'm starting to kind of look at it, and I'm like, okay, y'all help me. Are we overrating guys, overestimating guys? Is this bench really something that we can depend on? Where do we need to make, the upgrade? And that's where I'm going to do it. I wanted to bring it up for you guys so we can look at this Detroit Pistons roster before we close and kind of go through where does the upgrade need to happen? Obviously the first name that I'll start with, and I think it's probably the most appropriate one to start with because he gets a lot of the noise, is Killian Hayes. Killian Hayes. Is he somebody that you think the Pistons have to make an upgrade on, or do you see him kind of taking his necessary steps forward? Killian Hayes, man, I'm sitting here like, you know what? I want to see him next to Marcus Sasser. I want to see him push a little bit because last year, and this was kind of something we called out. Troy Weaver cleared the deck for Killian Hayes. He traded the guys that were behind him. He picked up his option on his contract to let him know, go out there and play. And he was firmly entrenched, man, to be able to play next to Cade Cunningham. And if it was going to be Ivy starting, to be the first guard off the bench. And it was laid out for him. Go out there, do what it do, bro. All right. This year you got Marcus Sasser coming in, who everyone at first initially was like, yo, you got that dog, and he's going to take Killian's spot. But now people want to kind of see how this thing works because we all understand the ceiling of Killian Hayes, of what he's already put out on tape, man. When he's right, he's right. But tell me, man, Killian Hayes, is he somebody that the Pistons need to upgrade for this team to make a serious step forward? Next person on the list, Marvin Bagley, man. 6'10 Marvin Bagley. He's still just 24 years old, man. Still just 24. His salary right now, 12.5. I don't know if his next salary, I assume that definitely goes down. It was assumed that the Pistons kind of bid against themselves with Marvin Bagley, but I think Troy Weaver just saw what he saw, wanted to reward the young man for what he was doing, at least initially. But let me know, man. As I'm saying this, you guys in the chats, let me know if we need to upgrade or if you think that his internal growth is enough on the squad, man. You know, Alec Burks, they just picked up his option. He's a vet, so obviously he's somebody that I think fits appropriately. Let's see here. Who else do we got? Isaiah Livers, 6'6", power forward, 232 pounds. Sometimes he looks a little bit taller than 6'6", and he definitely plays a little bit taller than that. I wish he was about 6'8", 6'9", but his shooting, his IQ, his just desire to do and to be whatever the Detroit Pistons want him to be, I absolutely love it, man. I absolutely love it. But you'll have to let me know, though, because we can't overestimate our players. Isaiah Livers, is he somebody that the Pistons need to upgrade, or do you think his internal growth is going to be enough for this team to depend on? Other than that, I know a lot of people have been asking and wondering about like guys like Eugene Omoruyi and such. But we're gonna have to wait to see. Those are guys that are kind of at the end of the bench. I don't necessarily consider him somebody that we have to depend on to even make that assessment on. But kind of one of the more important ones here before I get to the last, Isaiah Stewart. That's one of the ones where it's interesting to me because when we started the season, there were a lot of Isaiah Stewart fans that wanted him to start. And just one of my assessments was I like Isaiah Stewart. I think he is a heartbeat type of guy. But I don't think that when the Pistons are competing for just even the playoffs, I don't believe that Jalen Duren's front court starting mate was on that roster. I believe that Stewart was going to be a good guy to bring off the bench, a good guy to have as one of your main voices, a good guy to say, you know what, in spot duty, yeah, if we need you to start, we know he can go in there and start. He's still going to get his minutes. He's still going to have his impact. He's still going to be versatile all over the floor, offensively and defensively. But it just felt like they needed a little bit more height. And Troy talked about that when they went and got this guy, James Wiseman. But Isaiah Stewart, do you believe the Pistons need to upgrade their at that position on the bench, or do you believe his internal growth will be enough? And then James Wiseman, this is a guy who 7 foot, 22 years old. He fits kind of what Troy said that he was looking for out of this new age lineup, where he wants 5 creatives on the court. Yeah, he would take that. Not necessarily 5-point guards or guards, but 5 creatives, people who, when they have the ball in their hand, they can play make. If they get the ball off a rebound on the defensive side, they can take the ball down close to close if they have to, start the break if they have to, get a couple of dribbles and go up the court if they have to. These are the things that he wanted. Guys who, even in the half court, we've seen Duren throw lobs and throw bounce passes, throw dribble, get the dribble handoffs, even in interior space. And we've seen James Wiseman be able to do a little bit of this stuff. But he's preaching defense, 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 defense. This is what Troy Weaver is saying. For the Pistons to take this next step forward, are they going to have to upgrade at the position of James Wiseman, or are they going to be able to depend on his internal growth? So for those players, we went through the roster, we went through the bench players. I want you all to be able to put what you think, man. I want to hear your thoughts. Who are we upgrading? Who can we depend on as it relates to internal growth? And I think so far, man, I think that's a wrap for this show. We covered a lot. We had Rod on, the great. And honestly, I got over here off screen, man. Mr. Terry Foster, we're about to get this live going in a little bit here. By the time you all see this, the live would have already gone on. But I appreciate you guys for sticking around. Definitely put a drum roll in the comments for Rod Beard. And definitely check out the Morning Woodward. Check out From Half Court. Make sure you go in there and put a list of everything for Jeff I. Freddy, who's running around still doing everything. So I appreciate you guys for checking it out, tuning in. Put a like, subscribe. I'm your boy Brandon Dent, aka Detroit Kool-Aid, and this has been the Woodward Pistons podcast. Till next time, you all.